back to GridironTalkZone podcast, episode number 36. We're doing a college football season preview. Um, Jude's a bigger college football guy than I am. I'm, I'm more than a casual college football fan. I like it a lot, but I'm not to the extent of knowledge as Jude. But I still feel like I have enough knowledge to provide you with a pretty good insight on the season and good takes. So we're gonna be going through the Heisman, pick a winner, our second and third place finisher, and then we're gonna go to our top four college football playoff teams and our first two teams out, so our 5 and 6 teams, and then we're gonna wrap it up with our national champion. So, you want to say anything? Oh yeah, we're gonna mention that I'm an LSU fan. He is an Oklahoma fan, and we both consider ourselves non-biased, as you'll probably see here. So, anything you want to say before we get started?
Nah, man. I'm ready for the season to kick off. It's fine. Football's finally back. Let's get it.
Yep. Some of the college football already started, but majority starts tomorrow or the next weekend. But anyway, I'm gonna get our Heisman picks on the screen. We're gonna go right into the Heisman. So, starting with the Heisman Trophy winner, I'll let you talk first. As you see, Jude is on the left. I'm on the right. Talk about number 3 and 2 before we get into number 1.
All right. Number 3, I have Marvin Harrison. I'm a little concerned about what Kyle McCord's going to be for Ohio State, but I just think in Ryan Day's system, obviously you've seen he's maybe the greatest receiver prospect to come out ever, possibly. And I did like they have some other receivers like Emeka Egbuka that'll also take some of the load off of him. So he should be more open than he really should be just based off his talent. So I think he's going to have a monster season. And usually what I was telling Nick before, and the Heisman, they usually have a skill position player in there. Like, doesn't mean he's going to win, but they usually want to give the best skill position player the credit they deserve. So I think Marvin Harrison will be that guy this year. And number 2, I have Joe Milton from Tennessee. I really liked what I saw in the bowl game last year against Clemson. He has a similar play style to Hendon Hooker, and obviously Hendon Hooker had a monster season last year. And I think in Josh Heupel's system, Joe Milton his stats will be up there with the best quarterbacks. And as long as Tennessee wins about 9 to 10 games, which is where I see them, I think he'll be able to be in this top 3.
All right, on to my top 3. I also have Marvin Harrison at number 3. Again, like you mentioned, quarterback situation, not going to be as strong as last year, but I think in Ryan Day's system, he's still going to do his thing, get open. They're going to get the ball to him. He's going to have a monster season statistically and tape-wise, and I think that's going to really put him in the Heisman running. On to number 2, Drake May. I like what I saw of Drake May last year as his first year as a starter at UNC, and I think he's only going to continue to grow as a quarterback. And I'm actually higher on UNC than you are. So I think right now I'm looking at UNC as a 1-2 loss team, and I think with that performance, Drake May is going to have to do a lot, and I think he will. So I think that's going to put him in the Heisman running. But now to number 1, I think we were kind of both surprised that we each had the same dude, number 1. People, as we were looking that people are going to think we're Washington fans after this podcast, but we're really not. But anyway, Michael Penix Jr. had a monster season last year. The team returned both his starting tackles, and they added pieces on defense too. So I think that they're going to have a very good year as a team. And I think Penix Jr., with the experience he has in college, he's going to put together a really good season, and I think he's going to win the Heisman.
Yeah, as you see, I agree. I think this is actually crazy. This is his 6th year in college.
Wow.
I just did some research, but he didn't play.
He's pulling a king.
Yeah, he's pulling a Bo Nix. I think the experience, like you said, coming back, most of their production on offense is returning, and last season they went 10-2, which is underrated, I think, because
And
some
won the
people,
bowl game.
yeah, and some against Texas, some people nobody really pays attention to Washington, and I feel like this year it's going to change because I think Michael Penix is going to lead them to win the Pac-12 over USC, and I have them at 11-1. And his stats last year were pretty ridiculous. Second in passing yards, I believe, and a 150 quarterback rating last season, which is amazing. And I think just his experience, obviously playing for a lot of years will give you that. It's going to benefit him, and I think they're going to win the Pac-12 this year.
Yep. So we can move on to the playoff team, starting at number 5 and 6. I think Jude's probably a little surprised I didn't have my team in the top 4.
Oh,
5. I'm my LSU Tigers at 5.
wow.
So anyway, we can just start off with our number 6 teams. As you can see, we both have different 5 and 6. So I guess I'll just explain my number 6 and 5, and then let Jude do his.
Okay.
So number 6, Penn State. I really like Penn State this year. I think that they're gonna be a 1-loss team. I actually only have them losing to Michigan. I think that this is the year they're gonna beat Ohio State. I think Ohio State, they're gonna be good, but I think the quarterback situation isn't gonna be as good as the past. And even though they have Ryan Day, I still think Penn State, they played them really tight into the fourth quarter last year. And I think Penn State's going to have a better quarterback this year with the new quarterback over Sean Clifford, was it last year?
Yeah, Sean Clifford.
But anyway, yeah, so Penn State, 1-loss team. Then I have them not playing in the championship game because of who's in the conference. But anyway, on to number 5, LSU. I actually have LSU going 12-0, and then they're missing the playoffs, though, so it's weird. I have them going 12-0, losing to Georgia in the SEC title game. You may think they could still get in. They could, but I have some other 1-loss conference champions that I have getting in over LSU. But, yeah, I think they're going to – we all know they're a good team. Dane Daniels is going to have a good year at quarterback. I really like Brian Kelly as a coach, and I think it's going to be a good year. But I think Georgia's the better team in the SEC, and I think that ultimately keeps LSU out. But, hey, they still beat Alabama. And, again, 12-0 and then losing. They could get in, but I just have other 1-loss champions that I just put in over them because they won the conference. But, yeah, they're definitely going to still a good debate for the playoffs, I think.
Ooh, all right. My number 6, obviously, is Clemson. Last season, they – again, went kind of under the radar. The ACC is pretty weak, but this year I think it should be a lot stronger. They went 11-2 last year, or 11-3, I guess. And their quarterback was DJ Uig. I don't know. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name, but he was not good last year. His production was very bad compared to previous Clemson quarterbacks. And I think Cade Klubnik coming back, again, liked what I saw in the bowl game. And they hired Garrett Riley. And if you know anything, if you watched college football last year, his offense was the TCU offense who basically took the world by storm out of nowhere. And I think it could be similar this year. And I have Clemson winning the ACC, but I don't have them in the playoff because I think they might lose 1 or 2 games and then end up with a tiebreaker and win the championship in the ACC.
Right. Who do you think they're going to beat out in the ACC, UNC or Florida State, or who?
Florida State.
All right.
And then I could talk about number 5.
Oh, yeah. Ohio State.
Yeah, Ohio State. Honestly, like I said in the Heisman, I don't really know what you're going to get from McCord. Their defense should be improved. Year 2 under Jim Knowles. Again, the receivers are insane. The offensive production is probably going to be really, really good. It's just all about that Michigan matchup, man. And I don't think they're going to have the firepower to keep up with Michigan, especially on defense. I think because last year, if you watch the Michigan-Ohio State game, Ohio State kind of got shredded on the line of scrimmage, offensive and defensive line. I think that could be similar just based on what Michigan's returning. And I don't think they're going to be able to go into Michigan and win this year. So I have them one loss. And since they're in the same side as Michigan, they won't play. They won't play for a Big Ten title if they lose to Michigan. So I believe they'll lose to Michigan and then not play in the Big Ten title, and then therefore they'll be the first team out.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see it. Like I said, I have Penn State actually beating Ohio State this year, so I have Ohio State as a 2-loss team, but can definitely see them as a 1-loss team who just misses. But anyway, on to number 4. Boom. As you can see, I have Texas, the team that Jude despises as an Oklahoma fan. I'm just going to say I have Texas going 11-1. I'm going to see who I have them losing to real quick because I have it up here. I have Texas losing. Okay, I think they're going to lose to just a Big 12 opponent. I'm really looking at Kansas State or Texas Tech. I think they're going to lose.
Both.
I think they're going to lose one of those games at home, but obviously the big game is Alabama. I think they're going to go into Alabama and win. You know, they almost had them last year. If Bryce Young doesn't make that miraculous play, they have Alabama beat. And I think that this year, Alabama isn't going to be as strong of a team as they were past years. And even last year, they were a little bit weaker than most past years. But, yeah, I think that Texas is going to go make the college football playoffs. Again, I think they're going to lose one game in the conference. I could see it being at Oklahoma, but it's
not. It's a neutral site. It's neutral site.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Okay, you can keep going.
But anyway, what was I gonna say? If I'm not mistaken, didn't Texas just blow the brakes off y'all last year?
I was at the game, unfortunately.
You were at the game?
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But anyway,
this is a little off topic. My bad. Yeah, just talk about the game for a second. Our starting quarterback got a concussion on a dirty play the week before. So we didn't have the whole week leading up, it was like, oh, is he going to play? Like, they didn't really say anything. So the line for the game was like, -2, -3. So people were thinking it was going to be a close game because they had no idea what our quarterback was going to do. But then last second, we don't play our quarterback. Obviously, he wasn't healthy. We don't trust our backups. Listen to this. Our backup was so bad that we decided to run Wildcat the entire game. Our backup quarterback was General Booty.
Oh, that's
he was so bad. They didn't trust him to throw a screen. No, he's a quarterback. They didn't trust him to throw a screen pass. So the entire game, we were just running. Our tight end was playing quarterback the entire game. And basically, just to defend OU, in a game where you don't have your quarterback, you feel like you have no chance. So once you go down like 21-0, it kind of just snowballs. And Texas was obviously getting a little revenge on us because we've been beating up on them the last, decade. So it was a good win for Texas. It was a nice little win, but I disagree. I do not have them in my playoff this year.
Interesting. So on to your number 4 team, Washington, a team that's maybe, they're ranked 10, but I feel like a lot of people have picked them 3rd or 4th in the Pac-12 probably. You have them first. Explain.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about him a little bit in the Heisman preview. But Michael Penix, just coming off of the year he had, I think he should be able to play better. And their defense was kind of, I would say, middle of the road last year. And I think that should improve with, like I said, a lot of production returning. And their offensive line is elite. The receivers are elite. And I think they just have a better, more well-rounded team than a team like USC, who most people have in the playoff, just based off one guy, Caleb Williams. USC, I don't think their team is as built for a playoff compared to Washington, just top to bottom. Like their defense, we saw in week 0, they got shredded by San Jose State. That's a tough look. And I'm not just saying this based off of hate for USC because I told Nick I got over it a long time ago. I like Caleb Williams a lot. It's nothing against USC. I just think Washington's team is more built to sustain wins in the regular season because the Pac-12 might be one of the toughest conferences this year. If you look at it, it's pretty top heavy, but they probably have more top. I think they have more top 15 teams in the Big 12. I know for sure than the Big 12, but maybe not top 25. But the top of their conference is really good, and they also have some middle teams that are better than they usually are. So I think USC might find a little slip up, and I have Washington at 11-1, losing one game, but then winning the Pac-12 title, and that for me puts them over Ohio State just because of the conference championship. Will boost them over Ohio State, who won't even play in one, and then Clemson, who, like I said, I think might have 2 losses.
All right, well, we can continue talking about Washington because I'm on number 3.
Oh man!
So we both. It's funny because I told Jude I thought I was gonna have a team that he would have not thought. And then he comes out and tells me, guess my top 10 team, and then it ends up being Washington. I was like, oh, well, I guess we just both go bold on Washington this year. I also have them being a one-loss Pac-12 champion. I have them losing to Utah. I have them going into Southern California and beating USC. I think Washington is going to have a better defense than USC this year. I was looking at it. Washington, they have arguably the best pass rusher in the country, Braylon Trice, and they added an Oklahoma State cornerback, defensive back, who's expected to be good, and a USC linebacker. So they had some transfers to upgrade their defense. Again, Penix is going to do his thing. As Jude said earlier, 6 years of college football now. He's experienced. I think he's ready to lead this team to Pac-12 championship. And, yeah, I have them winning the Pac-12 championship versus Utah. I actually think Utah is going to finish second, USC third. So, revenging the loss that I have them losing gets them in at finishing 12-1. That's including the championship. And that's good enough to be number 3. But now you're number 3, the defending back-to-back champion, Georgia. Why do you have them at 3 and not higher?
Well, there's only one reason why they're not 3 and not number 1, because if they win all their games, they're going to stay number 1. Just you have to give them the benefit of the doubt because they're back-to-back national champions. I don't think it's dang near impossible to win 3 in a row. It hasn't happened since almost been 100 years. So I'm not predicting that to happen. Just it's kind of tough to say, but just based off the odds, honestly, it's probably not going to happen. Georgia, I like Stetson Bennett. He was fine for them. Carson Beck, who knows what we're going to get from him. But I just think they're going to lose one game. If you look at their schedule, I don't know if you look at their schedule, it's like a cakewalk. Like if they don't go 12-0 in the regular season, there's some real issues. So I think they're going to go 12-0 and then lose in the SEC championship to my number 1 team. And that's why I have Georgia number 3 and not number 1.
I'm looking at this. Oh, wow. So the last three-peat was University of Minnesota in the 1930s. Wow.
I said almost 100 years, yeah.
Wow. Interesting. And that's the only team to do it since 1900, so pretty much the college football era. I'm sure like Yale or Princeton did it in the late 1800s or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Georgia at 3. On to the Big 2. I have Michigan at 2. You have Michigan at 2 as well. I'm looking at it. J.J. McCarthy's going to provide the best quarterback play that they've had in years. Harbaugh is suspended, I believe, 4 games, but you look at those 4 games, they're all at home, which is a big team. So, like, week 4 is the biggest test. Rutgers at home. I don't care if Harbaugh's coaching, you're going to beat Rutgers at home. But anyway, so obviously the big game is Ohio State, the last game of the year. I expect them to be undefeated going into it. You know, they still have to beat Michigan State, Penn State to get there, and I expect that to happen. I have them beating Ohio State 3 years in a row, which is something that, like, 3 years ago, if you said that they're going to win the next 3 games, like, versus Ohio State, no one would have expected that because of how good Ohio State was beating up on them for the last, 7 years before 2 years ago. But anyway, Yeah, I like this team a lot. I think that they have a chance to be even better than they were the last 2 years, and that's saying something because they've been really good the last 2 years. So I have them at number 2. And what about you? You have the same.
Yeah, I have the same. I think they're returning a lot from last year's team, and I think the Big Ten is relatively. Penn State is obviously. I think they're better. They're going to be better than they have been in a few years, probably since Saquon was there. So but besides them, I think the Big Ten might be a little weaker this year. So I think Michigan should take care of business. I'm not a huge fan of JJ McCarthy. He's fine. He's not anything special. He's not going to lose you games, but I don't. If you listen to anything Jim Harbaugh said, you would think he's the next coming of Tom Brady. I don't know about all that. I need to see more, but I think in the regular season they should be fine. And then Ohio State, it's tough. It's tough because Ohio State really has owned them for a long time, but then the last 2 years it's just been completely turned the other way. And I don't really see that changing just based off the production Michigan's returning. And Stroud has been there the last 2 years, and they still lost. But who knows? I mean, this rivalry is probably the best in college football. Them and OU and Texas are probably the two top rivalries. So, yeah, like you said, it's all about the big game.
I'd rather watch Alabama, Georgia than OU, Texas.
But Alabama, Georgia is not a rivalry, though.
I get it. But, yeah.
Yeah, I think they should win every regular season game. It doesn't really matter that Harbaugh suspended. It doesn't really matter. So I think they'll be at number 2.
All right, on to number 1, Georgia, and you have Alabama. So as you see, I don't have Alabama in my top 6. I mean, the quarterback situation is shaky. They lost some NFL talent, and yes, they're going to still have recruiting, but this team's not going to be as good as it has been in past years. Coming off a down year last year, I expect another down year. You may say that's bold, but that's just what I feel is going to happen. I have Alabama losing 2 games to Texas in week 2 and then losing to LSU later in the year. So it's kind of bold to have Alabama losing 2 home games, but that's just what I have happening. But on to number 1, Georgia. Like you mentioned, cupcake schedule. Only real big test is versus Joe Milton in Tennessee. But I think they're going to take care of business in that game, be undefeated, play my LSU Tigers in the not the Pac-12, the SEC championship game. I think Georgia's going to win that game too, finish 13-0 going into the playoffs, get the number 1 seed. Between them and Michigan, I just think it's going to come down to Georgia plays in the SEC, Michigan doesn't. But with Georgia having a weaker schedule this year, Michigan beating Penn State and Ohio State would give them a strong case to maybe be 1 over Georgia. But I just think when it comes down to it, Georgia's going to be 1, Michigan 2. And that's my college football rankings.
Yeah, obviously we have different number 1s. Alabama is my number 1. They're not even in your top 6, which is kind of understandable considering at the beginning of the video, you said you were an LSU Tiger fan. I don't really see the vision that other people see. I think
I picked Alabama to win it all last year, by the way.
Okay, that's fine. But what about now? Who cares? What happened last year is last year, but okay, whatever. No, I think Nick Saban has kind of – I don't want to say that. He's kind of going under the radar, which is something he's probably never had in the last 15 years or 20 years since he's been coaching. And I think that's exactly what he wants. Obviously, this quarterback situation, like you said, it's kind of tough. But the thing is, we're going to find out really quick because week 2 they play Texas. So we're going to find out really quick if Alabama's quarterbacks are good enough to, be a number 1 team like I have them. But I think their defense is going to be elite. I feel like this is going to go back to the teams they've had in the past, 8 to 10 years where it was run, throw when you need to, but not really much. And defense will be probably top 5 in the nation. And, yeah, I have Alabama as my number 1 team. I have them going undefeated, so beating Texas, which is the big game, and then beating LSU only because – well, not only, but it does help that both of them are at home. I don't really see there's not really a possibility, in my opinion, that they lose both at home. You have them lose both at home. It could happen. I don't know. But I at least think they're going to split the Texas LSU game. But I personally have predicting them to win both. So yeah, that's my number one. All right. I guess Nick is a little off right now. I don't really know what's going on with his camera. Oh, it's just me. All right, bet. All right. So we be playing on during the predictions in the playoff after, but I'm just going to come out and say my national championship is my number one team, which is Alabama. I expect them. They call him Old Saint Nick for a reason. I think everyone's doubting him, like my co-host Nick. And I think this is the year that they get back to what they've been doing. I don't really see them. The recruiting has been nothing but elite, top 5 every year, so that hasn't changed. It's just about the quarterback situation. But I liked what I saw from Jalen Milroe a little bit last year. I think he played against Texas A&M, and he played fine. He didn't do anything crazy. And also their backup, Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame, I believe, will be pretty solid for them if he needs to come in and play. And yeah, I like the Alabama's being doubted. That's honestly the main thing. Hasn't happened in a long time. So yeah, that's why I have Alabama as my national champions. And this will wrap up the show. Just me. And yeah, I'll catch y'all later.